Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a special episode of the Social Ninjas podcast. I am your co-host Jeremy, and joined with me as always, Kyle Mitchell. What's up, Kyle?
Nothing much, man. Reversing the roles once again. I like the switching it up though.
Keeps it interesting. And we have a special guest. I am nervous to say your name wrong.
I want you to say it. Let's see.
No!
Just come in with confidence.
Keishorne.
That's it.
That was my guess. All right.
That's it.
Keishorne
That's
Scott. What's up, Keishorne Scott? Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's an honor, actually, and knowing you guys and seeing what you guys do, it's just been really a blessing just to be honored to be on the show right now.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
for the human beings who don't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I'm an author. I'm also a heartbreak coach. So I help men and women transition from relationships that weren't worth saving. So we help them heal, help them forgive, and change the way they view themselves.
So let's kind of start off by asking you how you got into that and a little bit of the step-by-step process of how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get deep.
Let's go.
So, I've been broken, about 8 years ago now. And going through that entire process, it changed me. It made me realize who I was and where I wanted to be. It took me a long time, as a man to get over that heartbreak, to heal, to be happy again. And because we do break, men don't express it and we aren't as open as women, but we do go through terrible breakups, terrible heartbreaks where we cry, we're upset. We go through anxiety, even a depression, but we won't speak about it, not even to our close friends, because it doesn't come off as manly. So we'll keep that bottle up inside of us. So I kept that bottle up inside of me for like about a year until I realized that I needed to heal and I needed to do better. And where I wanted to go and where I was two different paths. And in order for me to be successful or get to where I needed to be, a lot of stuff couldn't go with me. And that was the brokenness. And that was the anxiety, depression, the feeling of low self-esteem and not having self-worth in myself. So I just started to heal, started going to church more, started being around better friends, around better people, going to the gym more, and really enhancing the way I feel about myself. And it was a journey. It was a tough journey, tough 2 to 3 years, but it was all worth it. And that's pretty much how I got into being this.
Awesome. So it sounds like kind of how you changed your path was you kind of surround yourself with the circle.
You got to surround yourself with positive people. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just going to ask, because I get this question a lot, like for people that they'll message me talking about anxiety and about how, people in their circle, whether it's like a parent that sometimes, that they're still living with, their parent has that negative vibe towards them, and their anxiety maybe doesn't treat it as like a real thing, and kind of a push off. And so I wonder what your advice would be on that. Like, what do you tell them to do that? Because obviously you can't remove that relationship, right? But what exactly where can you go from there?
From there, you have to learn how to, you have to figure out what you want, right? You got to say to yourself, figure out what you want. And also, number one, understand it is not easy. Because a lot of people, we try to do things and we think it's easy. And when we don't get the results that we want, then we get back into depression and we get back into anxiety and we feel bad about ourselves. So the first thing I always tell people and clients is that it's going to hurt. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean it's not working. So when you're with your family and you live in the same household, just like people who's going through a divorce and you live with your spouse or you live with your partner and you have kids, it's kind of difficult. So you have to learn how to adjust and set boundaries and realistic expectations for yourself. So create a plan, of where you want to go and how long it's going to take you to get there. What are your triggers? What triggers the anxiety? Is it how they speak to you, how they talk to you? Can you spend less time in the house? Can you go in and pick up an extracurricular activity? Go to the gym more, distance yourself until you get to a point in your life where you can really step out, separate yourself and have your own place. And then you can love them from a distance. But it always starts with a plan. You have to have a good plan, a good strategy, and confidence in your execution.
I just have to ask this. How do you know if a relationship is worth saving?
When you exhaust every single thing and you're not getting the love that's reciprocated, you're not getting the same love back. A lot of times we force people to love us. We force relationships that's should have ended because we don't want to start over, or we just hate being single, or we don't want to really give up on people. As human beings, we don't want to give up on people. We just want you to get it right. We want to love you. You want to get the love back. And we don't want to just let go and throw away 2 to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. That's a waste of time. And we don't want to build a whole new relationship with someone, meet a whole new family, build whole new dreams, learn whole new secrets all over again. So a relationship isn't worth saving when you have invested so much time in a person, letting them know that you're uncomfortable, giving them second chances and giving them third chances. And they keep failing us all the time. And we know that it's not going to work. So the best thing to do is to separate ourselves, and maybe you can work on yourself. I can work on myself. And it's not to say that we might not get back together, but right now, togetherness is not working. So maybe separation will be the best option at the time.
So what do you say to people who are wanting to either expand their circle or expand their circle with positive people? How do they find these relationships, and then how do you build them?
Yeah, one of the first things that you have to find is what you're compatible with, because we're not compatible with every circle. Every circle is not going to be for us. So we need to find out people who have the same drive, the same goals, the same vision, kind of like people who are in the same niche as you in a way in friendships. You got to think about it like that, because if we aren't aligned and we're not going the same direction, then we're going to have a lot of friction. I'm gonna figure out why you're not supporting me. Maybe because you're not into what I am into. So in order to really expand your circle, you got to start meeting people whose vision and goals and mission is aligned with yours. It could be a little off, but I want to hang out with successful people, right? You can't be a millionaire hanging out with people, who works a 9 to 5 at Burger King and they have no intentions of owning their own business, or they're afraid or timid. They don't like to lose money. Who hasn't lost money as an entrepreneur? A lot of money and went back to zero. Then have to build your way all the way back up. It takes a different kind of perseverance. So you have to be around people who perseveres, people who has endurance, who is emotionally intelligent, and who's smart, not only emotionally, but spiritually and physically and mentally, and knowing that we're aligned, so I can push you and you can push me in the same area. So that's how you kind of build your circle.
That reminds me of sometimes starting over is not starting from scratch, it's starting from experience. I just thought of that right now.
Yeah.
I got a question that someone wanted me to ask you, and what is some tips on getting over someone?
Mm-hmm. One of the tips is, like I said before, back to what we were talking about, it's not going to be easy. So get easy out your mind, right? Get easy. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be the hardest thing ever in your life that you're going to be able to do. But the first step I always tell people is you got to forgive yourself, right? You got to take a step back and forgive yourself. Understand that you've made a mistake. They've made mistakes. The relationship didn't work out. So don't beat yourself up. It's a process and it's a journey. So you're not going to get over the person in a week or 2 weeks. So if 2 months pass and you're saying you're still thinking about the person, that's okay, because it's a journey of self-development. And the person you're going to develop out of this situation is going to be a completely different person. You're not even going to recognize the person that's going to come out of this fire, that's going to rise from the ashes of this pain. So the first step is you got to forgive yourself, and you have to move towards forgiving your ex as well, depending on if it's an abusive relationship, if it was a toxic relationship, if it was verbally abusive or even physically abusive. You have to get to a point where you're forgiving them, and you're not forgiving them because you're condoning the issues. You're forgiving them because that's, in order for you to move on fully, you have to forgive them because they probably didn't know any better. And then you have to start working towards changing the way you view yourself, changing the way you see yourself, and accepting the fact that you have to move on with or without closure. Because closure could really have you in a deep depression for a long time waiting for an answer, and you will never get an answer of why they didn't choose you, or why they cheated, or why they lied.
So what are some things that maybe you did or you have people do to see the better in themselves, like you were saying?
Yeah, I always tell people, write down where you want to go, right, and where you are now, right? That's when it's where you want to go and where you are now. So you get a piece of paper, draw a line in the middle. On one side, the right side, you put down where you want to go. On the left side, you'll put down where you are now or how you feel now on the left side. So let's just say on the left side, you're putting down, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I don't like myself, I hate the way I look, I don't like my weight, I don't like my height, I don't like anything about me on the left-hand side. But on the right-hand side, that's Kyle 2.0. That's the Kyle that I wanna build. That's him right here. So on your journey from that painful Kyle, the depressed one, all the way to the Kyle 2.0, anything in that way gotta go. It can't come with you. Anything that's going to block you from getting to Kyle 2.0, friends, family, people telling you that you can't make it, self-doubt, self-pity, anything that's in that area, that gray area, they can't go with you. So one of the first things you got to like terminate certain things. Like, for example, I was letting go of certain friends, people who was down in me, people who didn't see the same vision, people who tell me, hey, you need to go this instead of healing, or forget about her. Why don't you just grab these two girls over here and do something completely different? And that wasn't me, So one of the first steps was identifying where I want to go and where I am, and understanding that where I am can't go to where I want to be. And it's uncomfortable, but you can't be successful in this, with this mindset, in this thinking, in this depressive state, and still want to follow your dreams and your goals effectively.
I'm curious the process of what you went through and how that played out.
That's a good question. That's an excellent question. You calling me out. You've been calling me out since the beginning of the show. But my process was tough. It was hard because I kept on going back. Then I kept on calling. Then I kept on texting. And I wasn't seeking for closure. I just didn't want to let go. I didn't want to accept the fact. And that's one of the hardest part is acceptance. You have to accept the fact that it's over and the person doesn't want you no more. And that's the hardest words to ever acknowledge. Like, you don't want me? No, I don't want you anymore. I want you out of my life. I don't love you anymore. And when someone that you built a whole life around, dreams, goals, and a vision, and you were going to get married with the person, and they tell you that they don't love you or they don't want you and they don't see a future with you anymore, it hurts. It cuts deep. So when it cut me deep, I said to myself, wow, I don't even know how to get over this. I was crying every single day. I was upset every single day. I was angry every single day. Everywhere you look, I seen visions, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't process correctly. I felt like I was emotionally dying, physically dying, because heartbreak is not only an emotional thing, it's a physical thing. You can actually feel the pain in your heart. You can actually feel it. And when you've been with someone for at least 4 or 5 years, all you know is that person. You woke up with them, you went to sleep with them, you ate with them, you went out with them, you called them and you text them. And some of us, we left friends behind because we found love. So one of the main things that really helped me is I had to wake up. I had to wake up. I couldn't be down for too long. I was in bed for weeks. I was writing my first book. I couldn't even finish my book. I was putting the page in front of me and I was like, you know what, forget this. This is over with. I couldn't do this. My energy was gone. My creativity wasn't there no more. It disappeared. So it took me 2 to 3 years to really accept the fact that I have to let go. Made a list for myself, the same list I shared partially with you guys. Forgiving myself, understand that I'm not in control of a lot of things, but I am in control of where I want to go. I can't bring back the past, but I can develop a new future. I wasn't always a good boyfriend, but I could be a better husband, which I am today, and I could be a better father, which I am today. But throughout that process, I didn't think I was going to be, a good father. I didn't think I was going to heal. I didn't see anything for myself. I didn't see a future. All I seen was pain and hurt and depression and anger. I didn't see anything good, guys, at all. But when I started pushing and I started going to the gym, I started reading and I started doing other things with my life, I realized who I really was. And I said, you know what, I'm going to push past. I need to become this Keishorne. That's the one I need to become. Like the Kyle 2.0, I need to become that Keishorne 2.0 for myself in order for me to do better. And then it was a long, hard journey and it was worth it. And that's why I tell people every single day, I've been there. So when I tell you that you could heal, you could, but you got to put in the work. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to put in the work. And there's no skipping over it. There's no going through the back door. There's no saying I'm gonna hold off and do it later. You got to do it now.
Yeah, this makes me think of it's very painful and challenging because you're literally mourning an old version of yourself, the death of an old version of yourself. So there's pain in that. And it's like there's that fear of the pain which keeps you still, what keeps you
Yeah.
in a space that
Stagnant.
actually you're not satisfied with.
That's it. And it brings so much low self-esteem, and it talks about, like, in my first book, I also talk about that, how it brought low self-esteem. You start looking at yourself like, why she don't want me? Like, maybe nobody wants me. And then you start thinking that nobody wants you is because this person didn't want you. And then the self-esteem just trickles around your whole entire life. And it goes from work to job, to how you function, to how you love, to how you even love yourself, to how you love the people around you. You feel like you were the reason why, she left you, and there's something wrong with you. And actually, some relationships don't work out. You gotta accept the fact that everybody isn't meant for everybody.
Before I forget, I'm curious to kind of hear a little bit about your books,
Mm-hmm.
the process
Yeah.
of making them, telling us a little about them.
Yeah, they're all self-help books. Talks about relationship. The first one actually talks about self-esteem, love, insecurities, like my insecurities, envy in some of my friends, growing up as a child. The process was really, it was, in the beginning, it wasn't hard. The beginning it was kind of simple, because I was my first book, so I was eager to write it. As you start getting to the third and fourth book, you get kind of tired. You're like, oh, I gotta go through this whole process again. So, um, I just started writing. I think that was the first thing. I started writing. And it's funny, because when you get out of a breakup, or you get out of something, you want to prove the other person that you still got it. So I had to finish that book. That book was my comeback, kind of. So yeah, it was a long journey. It took me about 2 years to finish that book. It was a fairly longer book than everything else. And once that book was completed, I shared the story with everyone. It was a tough journey for the book, but it was patience, very patient to write the book. I had a system, I think it was 300 to 350 words a day, um, along a period of time. So I couldn't miss any days. It was Monday through Sunday, just writing for like about 2 or 3 months straight until you finished it. And then when I finished it, send it off, get it polished, get a line editor to read line for line, make sure things is flowing, get the interior done, get the book cover done, and then put it out there. Yeah.
Did you write that down, Jeremy? Yeah, so I was muted.
Yep.
So I'm curious, in your journey to Keishorne 2.0, we'll call it, did you like develop any like routines to help you get that way? Anything like that?
I mean, going to the gym more, that's number one, like really working out more and eating better. And really doing a lot of like praying for me, doing a lot of praying, doing a lot of meditating, and changing my circle, like going back to the circle thing, changing my circle, because I did not have the same friends I had when I was going through that. I realized that I need to do something with my life, going to more networking events, meeting other people who were business focused, goal oriented. I was speaking more as well too. So I was speaking a lot, actually. So traveling and speaking and meeting different people, that kind of like take your mind off a lot of things, because you're always on the go. You're always writing, making sure that you're sharp with what you're saying, making sure you can answer every question that people throw at you, because that's what separates like the experts from people who don't really know what they're talking about. Sharpening your skills, and through sharpening my skills, speaking, writing, and doing all those things, you kind of like build a better version of yourself unconsciously, because you're continually growing. So I think that's that routine of just consistent success, going to the gym, eating right, doing meditating, praying, and all those things. Those became life. Those became things that I do all the time. Waking up early in the morning, like 5 a.m., going for a jog, clearing your mind, and figuring out what you need to heal within yourself. Because we're all not perfect. We all have things that we're not okay with. So I figured I had anger issues, number one. So I found the things that I wasn't okay with. Anger issues, the way I speak to people was kind of rough. So I said, okay, these are the two things that I want to tackle this year. And I said, I'm gonna start speaking a little bit better to people, more calm, more sweet, more kind, and stop being so aggressive. So I just picked out some of the stuff that I wasn't comfortable with within myself, that I don't want to bring into another relationship. So that's what helped me to identifying what I was doing wrong.
I heard you say earlier, you talked about the dynamic of you weren't admitting that you're going through a hard time and that you're struggling. I'm curious if you can take me through, or take us through, the process of really being uncomfortable and feeling your emotions and processing the pain and suffering you were going through and how that looked.
I mean, processing, it was, because it's all over the place. It's all over the place. You don't know what to think. All you know is that, all you hear is the bad things. Like, all you know is that this person left me. They don't want me no more. I'm not good enough. These are all things that you hear subconsciously in your mind when you're trying to process the pain or process and change. So you have to get to a place where you're in total peace, where you can think and you can say to yourself, okay, or even meet someone, because I had friends as well too, who were kind of like ask me like, what's wrong, like how you doing, how you feeling, and I'm like, I feel hurt, and then figuring out my role in all of this, that kind of helped me process things more, and being able to open up more and not think that I can figure it out all on my own, because I can't. Because you're living with your own mindset. You're thinking on your own, right? So all the stuff in my mind is the junk that I'm thinking, the self-hurt, the self-esteem, the low self-esteem. And that's the old Keishorne talking, right? The hurt Keishorne talking. So in order for me to hear the healed Keishorne, I need to speak to people who I can open up to and who ask me thought-provoking questions in order for me to say, oh, you know what? You're right. I wasn't like that. So maybe I could take some responsibility here, instead of being stubborn and having my ego and my pride hold me down. So I say a lot of the times came with me opening up to people close to me. That definitely helped.
I have a question based off of what you just shared a little bit ago about, you said you had anger issues.
Yep.
Were you scared of your anger, and was there a place where you're like, I'm just gonna feel the anger all out and see what happens? Like, how to tell me?
I mean, I felt it. I knew I had it, right? But I started to identify, because when a lot of people tell you that you have something, I think it's time for you to self-identify and say, you know what, let me figure out what everybody's talking about. Let me see if it's true. And the thing about what I always tell people is that people can't change you. You have to see a problem with your actions in order it's a problem. So I identified that was a problem with me. And I felt my emotions. I know that it was toxic, and I know that it wouldn't bring me to happiness. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes in this relationship in my next relationship. Right. So I had to say, you know what, I can't go into my next relationship with anger issues. I can't have a child and build a marriage and build a happy home with the same behavior that I had in my previous relationship. Something had to change. And in order for me to change it, I had to accept it, acknowledge it, and then work towards it. So I had to feel those emotions.
So, did you ever figure out what was underneath the anger issues?
Yeah, you're asking some really good questions right now. Through those anger issues with a lot of trauma, growing up with my mom, being angry about how we grew up, not having enough. My brother, who I never seen before, I've never seen, till this day, we never seen each other, because he lived in a different country in Trinidad. So, my father working a lot of jobs or getting sick at an early age. My mother working 2 to 3 jobs and really never there. Me being an immigrant and not able to go to college on time until like 3-4 years later. It was so much bottled up until you got to a point where you're like, you know what, I got to process this and I have to speak to someone about this. And I spoke to a good friend of mine where we really went through all of it. And I broke down. I was like, wow, I didn't know that I was holding on to all of this. And this is why I was truly angry, because I have a lot of backed up emotions and things that I didn't confront. And I'm looking for answers, but I haven't confronted it. So yeah, definitely, that was an excellent question. I think a lot of the issues that was, a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, a lot of PTSD from the past, and those things that was unresolved because you never spoke about it. And growing up as men, we're not tend to, stop acting like a girl, don't express yourself. You sound weak, and those all are false. When you get older, you realize that no, I'm gonna express myself to people who I love. If I'm cool with Jeremy or Kyle, I'm gonna talk to them because I trust them, and I know that my feelings are safe with them, and I know that they don't want to see me fail. So if I speak to them about how I feel, they're gonna uplift me and build me, and to be a better man. And that's what friends in a strong team and a strong companionship is all about.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Just talking about bottling all that stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I like always try to make clear when I'm like talking to different schools or whatever, is I tell them about how I bottled up so much, and like what was like the number one step, and what I recommend to everyone is like, go talk to somebody about it. Just doing that simple thing is just, and being able to release all that instead of holding it in is, man,
It's scary.
it's a miracle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was scared of my anger. I'll never forget the first time I really just, someone said, you know what, let's get into your anger. I really feel it.
Yeah.
And
Where it's
that was so cathartic to really like feel the anger. I was screaming, really feeling it. I never did that before.
Yeah.
I remember just it popped off and all the stuff just got processed. I was like, oh, took that first breath. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And that's that breath that you like, when we let everything out, like, wow, it feels much better. It feels much better. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I've done with clients is I help them. There's always that story that's behind those old traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people do is they process those traumas, but it's about like, all right, what's the story behind the trauma that you're still using that's not helping you anymore, and what's that new story that we can put in its place? Because if they don't reprogram that story, then it's just going to come right back, is because of what your body knows.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the mind is a crazy special place.
So, wanted to ask you one question that we ask all our guests. If you had the ability to send one message to everybody in the world, what would it be?
Don't rush your progress. Don't rush your progress. Like a lot of people, we try to play catch up. We try to think that where everybody's healing, or everybody, it doesn't even have to go with healing. It could be going with anything else in our life. We tend to rush things too much, right? And I like to tell people, work at your pace. You're not in competition with nobody but yourself. And you don't know what anybody else is doing in order to get their healing, or if they're faking it until they're making it. So the only person you're responsible is for you, right? You're not responsible for nobody else but yourself. So work at your own pace. Keep things fun. Number one, don't overwork, and process your pain, and figure out where you want to go and who you are right now. And if it matches up, if the person you are right now is the person you want to see in the next 2 to 3 years, then so be it. If there's some changes that you have to make them today, make them right now, because you're actually being selfish to someone in the future who you can help by not doing your due diligence and working on yourself today.
Love it.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? I know you got some books, Instagram, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Just type in Keishorne Scott on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or anywhere. Just KeishorneScott. I'm sure you probably going to have a tag to the podcast anyway. So just type in the first and the last name anywhere, and you'll definitely find me. And you'll find the books on Amazon as well, or Barnes & Noble.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all your vulnerable stories and what you've been through, and for sharing space with us today.
Thank you for having me, asking those thought-provoking questions. A lot of those questions people don't really ask. I don't know why. I probably did about, it was October last month. I probably did about 15, 16 podcasts, like 3 a week. And people don't really. It's always the same questions sometimes, but when you get those thought-provoking questions, that actually like, so what happened, in your past? Tell me about your relationship with your mother or your father. Like, when you get those, like, oof, now you got to think. Now people can really know that you're genuine. So those are really good questions that you asked. You both asked some really good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you have it. From Keishorne, we ask really good questions.
It's really good questions. Those are the best I ever had in a long time.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Until next week, we'll see you guys then.